Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 7th episode of Season 2 of the podcast Society and Stuff with your host, Joseph Eisman. The musical introduction of this podcast is brought to you by Blue Dot Sessions. The name of the song is Celestial Navigation, a really great piece of music that I think fit the mode for this podcast. The topic of this episode is about the labor market. That is why I have a guest. He has worked in the work-oriented business Misa since year 2006 with different roles and is the CEO of the work-oriented training center Misa Kompetens since 1st of November 2020. He is also on the board for the associations SFSE, Svenska föreningen för supported employment, the Swedish Association of Supported Employment, and the association Autism Stockholm County, Autism Stockholms Län, as you may know that I am on the board for. I say welcome to Andreas Nyhlén. Hello, Andreas. How are you?
Hello, Joseph. I'm very well today. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How does it feel being on this podcast?
I'm excited and slightly nervous. This is my premiere as being a part of the podcast, so I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Yeah, so you have not been on a podcast before?
No, not in a podcast. I've been in several webinars and stuff, but no podcasts actually.
Yeah. Well, it's the first time for something, right? It's nice having you here. And before we begin with this interview, I'm thinking maybe we can start with a bit of an introduction. If you could tell about yourself. Who is Andreas Nyhlén?
Well, I think you made a presentation, but that was perhaps my professional life. Besides that, I am a father of two daughters, one aged 16 and one aged 21. I live in the southern parts of Stockholm. Yeah, besides work, I like being outdoors and walking my dog and cross-country skiing.
Wow, sounds like you have many hobbies or many things you like to do during your free time. Yeah, and nice also that you spend time with your daughter. If I'm not mistaken, she is diagnosed, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
We will be getting a bit more into the labor market, and I think that the listeners are eager to listen about the labor market and how it affects society and how different workplaces, for example, have their policies and etc. So we will be discussing a bit more about that. But before we start with ongoing questions, if we move on to this first question of the interview, what made you choose to work within the labor market?
Actually, I that was perhaps coincidence because 25 years ago I didn't quite know what to do in my working life, and I started working with youngsters and young adults with autism and ADHD, working in where they came after school and where they spent weekends and some nights. Partly because the parents needed some rest from the sometimes hard dilemmas working with and having kids at home, and maybe siblings needed their time as well, but also to somehow provide some kind of quality of life in for everybody basically. So I got more interested in working with people with autism, and I broadened my working life, working as supporting people in their homes, getting some structure and routines in everyday life. It was quite a lot of work during weekends and evenings and spending time from home when everybody else was home. So I wanted to work more office hours and found this company that worked, a private company that worked with the model of supported employment. And I had no idea what that was all about, but just staying focused on one target to make sure that these people that I work with could find a place at the open label market. That was different for me then. So really excited, and started working with that in 2006 as a job coach. And from that, I tend to get really interested in what I do, and I got really interested in the methods and the core values behind the methods. So I deepened my knowledge about that and started internal training in our company, and also for other organizations that was interested in what we were doing. And then at 2010, I was asked if I could manage a unit of my own. So for 15 years, I've been a manager for a supported employment organization, working with people for people with autism mainly. And since 2020, I got back to training. So that's what I've been doing since then.
What a remarkable story to hear. And as mentioned earlier in the beginning of this episode, you have a personal experience of neuropsychiatric disabilities, of these diagnoses, autism and ADHD. And so, as mentioned, your daughter, she has also autism, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're correct. And it started as my professional life, and I got it into my family life as well. So
yeah,
it was so I'm surrounded by it and lived with it and lived for it. So
yeah, that's something really, really great that you can do. Like you take those personal experiences with you and you put them into your work. It's highly valuable, and I think more of that. We do not see much of that in society, I would say. I do not know about you.
Well, I don't know. It's a great way to motivate yourself to try to do better for society as a whole every day, and for this target group as well.
Yeah,
I would say that when I'm out training, I meet a lot of people with the same issues and the same, who also have somebody close that has a disability of some sort. So there's a lot of us who live with it and around it. So that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You learn a lot.
Yeah, definitely you do. When it comes to the labor market, just as how society changes, the labor market can also change, and the structure of it and how it is perceived and etc. So the next question is, do you think that the labor market has changed over the years, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, it has changed a lot, because when I read the first book about supported employment who reached Sweden in the early 90s, job and the labor market is described in a way that we don't see anything of today, at least not in the urban areas. There was mainly industrial jobs, and jobs that was perhaps easier to get a hold of in terms of getting to know how to do the job, because the job tasks were very similar every day. Today you need to evaluate a lot more of what you need to do to make things better. Everybody's their own manager in some way, and everybody's doing everything in the office that people were specialized at before. So you're doing administrative, and you manage everything around yourself today, which is quite difficult for people with disabilities to get a grip of. Especially I see this, of course, in the urban areas where we don't have a lot of industries left, or warehouses or things like that.
Like how everything else changes, the labor market will change as well, and has changed. Yeah. As we spoke of earlier in the beginning of this episode, your experience of working with individuals within the autism spectrum and with other disabilities. Individuals with disabilities in general, they do get left out of society and of the labor market because maybe they do not measure up to a standard that the employers or the workplaces want them to have, the companies want them to have. it's sad that they do not get a job and that they run from trainee places, without getting paid, and they work for free. And so, So if we move on to the next question, what are your thoughts on individuals being outside of the labor market and not even getting a job?
Well, I would say that they are struggling. It seems like it doesn't matter if there's an economic boom or if there's an economic recession. People with disabilities are still being left out. As for now, we have a recession, so there's lots of people who don't have jobs. But when there's an economic boom, which will hopefully come, and we've seen it before, when unemployment goes down, unfortunately, it doesn't go down for this group with disabilities, so they get left behind. But we are fortunate that there has, for the last 10 years, there's been some hope, actually, since corporations, companies have taken on bigger social responsibility for environment and diversity and doing more for society as a whole. But it hasn't reached everybody, and sometimes there are structures that are still difficult to break through. But it's a struggle. I think if people with disabilities try to fight for jobs in the same way that others do, if, let's say, there's a job opportunity open from the public employment service, it's racing against others. If you have a disability, it's really tough because what you write in your CV and how you perform in an interview or so, it's quite difficult. So I think that we need to get employers to look at recruitment in different ways, in new ways.
Right. It can also be like the structure of the workplace or the policies they have. And unfortunately, there are neurotypicals. They can be very competitive when it comes to getting the job or getting the work that they crave for. And without realizing it, they can step on others' toes. We will be getting into it a bit more during this interview and talk more about the disadvantages of the labor market as well. If we move on to the next question, I do not know, maybe this is a repetitive question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. What are your thoughts on individuals with specific individualistic needs, for example, within the autism spectrum or any other neuropsychiatric disability and or other disabilities in general that cannot get a job?
Well, if you ask me about individual needs, I think everybody has individual needs, whether you have a disability or not. I think one thing is to talk to employers and say that I guess that your staff that you already have, everybody has individual needs, and you may need to make some adjustments for this specific person or something like that. But we make adjustments for everybody, actually. And I think that the companies who's jumped on the train with concerning universal design, where everybody gets the same, where adjustments aren't that big or isn't that much of an issue, are in head of getting a diverse employment group. So I don't know if that's an answer to a question, but I think that from my point of view, everybody has individual needs, and if we can just make small adjustments for everybody, but big adjustments for companies as a whole, then everybody benefits.
Right. The company will gain. If there are now people within the leading field within the company, they will also gain from it. Like they will be seen as the company that are inclusive and that cares about inclusion. So it's very important to have that in mind, definitely.
Yeah, I haven't seen any Swedish studies, but studies from USA and Great Britain really says that companies working with diversity and inclusion have advantages towards others that don't. People want to do business with companies that has this on their agenda.
It's interesting. You mentioned that you haven't seen any Swedish studies about it. Why is that, would you say?
Maybe there are. I guess there are, but the studies that I've been, as a whole, I think that studies on supported employment and labor market are there are some organizations that do it, but maybe I've been looking at the other directions. I guess there should be some done Swedish studies of it as well, but I just haven't seen it.
And because in Sweden, everyone is talking about, inclusion and diversity and how it's very important. So I was just wondering why, but yeah.
One difference between Sweden and other countries are because there are studies that says that countries with a really strong labor laws and regulations for the labor market are struggling more with letting people with disabilities in, as opposed to other countries that, where the laws aren't quite strict, are more open for taking in people with disabilities. And of course, it has to do with you can try and for a while, and if it doesn't work, you can get rid of that person. But in Sweden and other countries where the law is really strong, it's more difficult. I think employers are scared of perhaps employing work environmental problem that they need to struggle with for a long time. And that's why employers also need support. It's not only the individuals who need support, the employers also need a lot of support.
You may have seen workplaces, organizations, employers that can lack leading the company into the right direction or leading in general, and that they make up these, to put it blunt, stupid decisions, and by being just plain ignorant. And so I would say, which is very common in the labor market. So if we move on to the next question, there are employers who have an unhealthy way of leading an organization. What needs to be done to prevent workplaces like that and to somehow remove unfit employers?
I don't know how to remove unfit employers. I hope that it's a self-sorting problem. But
maybe it was a hard question or maybe a tough question.
But of course, yes, there are companies with unhealthy structures. Of course there is. But I think also that most companies would benefit from getting a more systematic review on how they structure things and how they manage things. In a report from another organization called Attention, one of the biggest problems for people within neuropsychiatric disabilities, they thought that the biggest problem was that the organization that they got a job in had really difficult structures to understand, and they said it was really messy around them. And I think that is part of the problem with the labor market, and as I was trying to say before, that everybody is being their own manager, and that leads up to structures and systems that are quite difficult to understand. It was perhaps easier for people with autism when it was really hierarchical structures and organizations, and you knew exactly who's my boss and who's not, and what you needed to do to find your way up to make a career. I mean, an organization within a company doesn't look like it used to be before, where like a pyramid structure, a lot more complex today, I would say. But there are companies, of course, that aren't interested at all in doing diversity, having diversity and inclusion on their agenda. And we just think that if they don't, there's no point for us in struggling to get them on the right side, because that will take us far too much time. We're far more interested in working with companies that are at least curious. As far as we see it, as companies are at least curious, there are things to do to work together. So perhaps if we work with creating relationships with them, there might be some day when they open their door for a person with a disability as well.
If we can dream for a while and pretend that you just stepped into the most perfect workplace ever, it has everything that an ideal workplace should have. So if we move on to the next question, then what would you say is the ideal workplace?
You know what kind of workplace I like are hotels or conference venues, because they create a small world or a small society in a small structure as a building. There are so many different things to do there. There's administrative work, there are some computer work, there are technical jobs, and often food and cleaning and everything. Those are really nice to work with. But from another perspective, we see also that small and medium-sized, I would say around companies that are around let's say 10 to 30 employers are smooth to work with, because they can adapt really quickly and they can make the correct adjustments that's needed quite fast. Larger companies, they're quite hard to work with because decisions aren't already made on the floor and they need to ask someone else, an HR or a quality unit or something like that. So, but the companies that can provide different work tasks are great.
That looks at the worker as an individual, that definitely. And as you mentioned, when it comes to these big workplaces, those big organizations, but we also do have organizations, when they do get bigger, they tend to often forget the meaning of how a good workplace should be. And I think we got that picture. I think the listeners also got it. No, definitely. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, of course, besides from the hard facts that how many employers there are and what job could be done, what work tasks could be done, there's, of course, as you say, the people working there should be nice and including and knowing why and knowing what social responsibility is all about as well. Of course, that makes it easier. And not just the boss, also the people on the floor, because the people on the floor are the ones working with these persons, so they need to be on the train as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the manager, yes, and the other workers as well, definitely. Because we read on the news and so about workplaces that are totally, gone far deep with how they treat their workers. And if you do not treat your workers well, you do not get workers who are happy. It's all about the relations that you have with your workers and the relation that the company has in general. Definitely. Perfect. Then we can move on to the next question. In society, we do have people who, when they apply for the jobs, they really, how can I put this nicely? Well, they really do not care for the job. I mean, they do care for it, but they care for it in a different way. They only work their hours and then they just go home, and if they have done something or if something is happening, they just simply do not care about it, or they do not show any remorse if they can be the ones who have caused it. But if we move on to the next question, then what are your thoughts on careerists and how they seem to get much more space in the labor market?
That's a tough one. Careerists, I don't know if we define them in the same way as if you mean people who aren't afraid of stepping on others to get to their own goals. Is that what you mean with a careerist?
Yeah. Stepping to other toes, and when they do have the job, like they do the job, but they do it in an ignorant manner, in an ignorant way. Like they only work their hours and they get out of there because they are done for the day, and the many jobs they have with these nice titles, the more jobs they have with these nice titles, the better it looks in the public eye, So that's what I mean.
I think you're painting a picture of a person who's struggling with being liked by others. And I think we see that in the same way, you and I. I think that the differences between being yourself as a private person and what you do in your functional role are getting closer to each other today. It's most of us are working with things and organizations that also meets our private core values. I think that I haven't met many of these persons, but you describe a person that I wouldn't like. But there's something else in that as well.
Then maybe I have succeeded. I do not know.
Yeah. But you describe a person who, and also maybe an organization where shared responsibility for the organization as a whole may not be there. And maybe an employer needs to do something about that. But it's all about leadership, I would say, and how you manage and lead that company. What kind of people and employers would you like to have? Do they represent your company? But on the other hand, it's a dilemma. What about persons who are very loyal and do their job job, but are being, basically assholes. That's a dilemma. But I think that we're looking for people with social skills, so that I don't think many companies or employers like to work with people who always make sure that the wheels aren't turning perfectly. I mean, social skills are a really valuable asset, and something that are, if you're not socially skilled and not socially smooth, you have difficulties in the labor market, I would say, which is also proved by in actually Swedish supported employment studies, that young persons who are really motivated and have social skills are more likely to get a job than those who haven't. It's probably not surprising results on that studies, but it's in fact if that's one of 4 really important factors, having social skills and being socially smooth, then it's a really important issue.
Absolutely. The social being socially smooth, as you mentioned, it is very important, and then as I mentioned, we do have those who they step on others, or they just do their job, and the more jobs they have on their resume, the better it is in the eye of the public, because they seem to look like these. They want to paint the picture to the world that they are these big shots, or something like that. But I think you described it pretty well. Yeah,
good.
I think the listeners also will agree with what you said.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. So if we move on to the next question, then you work for the work-oriented business Misa, and is the CEO of the work-oriented training center Misa Kompetens.
Yeah.
Can you tell a bit more about the organization and how you give support to individuals that wants to work?
Yeah, Misa is a company owned by a foundation, and the target of the foundation is to do good for society. And what we do is we find different ways, different stakeholders to enable us to work with people with disabilities, mainly people with autism, intellectual disabilities, acquired brain injuries, but also people with perhaps schizophrenia, paranoia, addictions, people who are perhaps outside society who needs individual support. And we try to provide that individual support by getting an alliance with a person, working quite hard with getting an action plan together in terms of what we are expected to reach within our collaboration together, and also thinking about methods and roles. And from that, we target the labor market. And to do that, we need to make analysis of who we're dealing with here, looking for strengths and resources, not looking for obstacles, trying to identify strength and resources. And when we've done that, we try to match them with organizations and companies that we also work with really hard and proactive, so that we have best case scenario is that we have a couple of organizations that are willing to open up for a person who's willing to try. And for a small while, a person with a disability can come to that company for a job taste or a job shadow and see if that would be something that would be appropriate for them, more or less suitable jobs. And if there's a more suitable job, then we try to address the company and see if there are any possibilities for a long-term placement who could lead to getting a job and getting paid for that job. So we work really tight with the clients, and we were trying to work really tight with the employers as well.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like you have it all when it comes to, helping individuals that really want to work and they want to start working. And it is an important aspect to look from it from an individualistic point of view, definitely.
Yeah, it sounds easy when I explain it, right? But there are dilemmas, and there are things to consider and take care of along the road. But that's part of the method to do that and to deal with it. So we're really used to getting through difficult times as well.
I would not say it's easy as well.
No.
As you mentioned, it does sound easy, but as we have established, especially with the questions that we have went through, until now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely different. It's like you
But
hear,
people,
you see
for
things.
for most people, just having someone to support them, who believes in them, who believes in their goals and visions and targets, that's helping as well. Studies are showing more that health issues are benefiting just from getting an individual support, no matter if you reach the job market or not. But I heard a nice quote from a former client. I don't need to hear it's easy. I just need to hear it's possible, which is a really strong motivator. Just knowing that it's possible is really strong.
Wow, yeah. You start reflecting when you hear that quote.
Yeah.
Yeah, the possibilities are important.
Yeah. And having someone else to believe in that and helping me to stay focused on hope and possibilities when I struggle. And if there's two of us helping each other, it's built on trust. So that's strong.
Yeah. Did you feel finished with the question or anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just float away and I don't remember the questions. I feel that I have anything to add to the question.
Yeah, I think you added plenty to the questions so far, and we have a couple of more to come.
Yeah. No worries.
But yeah, definitely. And the answers you have given, they are relatable. And then we can move on to the next question. Yeah, so the next question then. You are also engaged on the association SFSE, Svenska föreningen för supported employment, the Swedish Association for Supported Employment, where you are on the board. Can you tell about the association and the work you do there?
Yeah, as part of the Swedish Association of Supported Employment, we are also a part of the Association of Supported Employment Europe, which I'm also a board member of. In the European Association, we try to find out best practice for supported employment and IPS, individual placement and support, a similar method based on the same core values and the same processes. So from that, and what's best practice, we are trying to find out by looking at service providers and researchers what best practice is. So that's on the European level, and that simmers down to the national organizations who try to adjust as little as possible, not to damage the basic ideas of supported employment or IPS, but try to adjust them and adapt them to the Swedish context. So what we do in the Swedish association is that we don't get paid to do that, but our employers are sending us to that with the knowledge that we could do good. So what we try to do is to gather people who are interested in the methods and just getting people to talk together and perhaps provide some new reflections, some new ideas, and some new trainings that comes from science and service providers from all over Europe and Sweden, and getting them to know each other so that more people can do good.
Yeah, so you do not only work nationally, you also work within Europe, which, it's important. It's very important work. Yeah. And I think that the associations that do exist in society, that they also should be heard and seen. They also should take place because they also have something very important to contribute with, definitely.
Yeah. We've been trying to affect policies and politics, but it's quite difficult to make your voice heard. But we have that's on our agenda, but it's quite difficult. And I think we need to hook up with other organizations who wants to do the same so that our voices get stronger.
Yeah, definitely. You felt finished with the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, then we can move on. Yeah, what do you think of... Yeah, well, people who are lying in general. What do you think of those? Like, this is not the question, it's just a sidetrack.
People who are lying.
Yeah.
I would guess that people are lying that they get benefits from it. And, I guess people do what they seem to, what's best for them. But the difference is that some of us are only interested in what's best for me, and some of us are interested in what's best for everybody. And then lying might be the wrong way to go.
The reason why I'm asking is because we have arrived to the next question, and that's why I'm asking. And if we move on to the next question, then What are your thoughts on people lying on their resume to get a job, and what impact does it have on the labor market?
Well, I hope that lies on people's resumes are in near time or in the future are revealed. I don't see how that could benefit anybody, actually. I mean, if I found out that somebody had lied in their resume, that would of course be a really strong discussion between me and the employee if I'm managing that and have made a recruitment and been lied to. So hopefully I would reveal that during the recruitment process. If not, well, that will probably show. I think that it's more common that people maybe hold back truth in resumes and personal letters to the employer, which is also understandable, but always better to be open with perhaps disabilities or things they're struggling with, because that usually comes out anyway sometimes, and it's so much easier to start working with these things in time. Then we can make adjustments, but that's not lies, is it? Holding things back.
I do not know. When I'm thinking lies, I think that they say that they are professionals at something that they really are not, or they tend to spice up their resume a bit just because, so they can get the job easily.
Yeah, and maybe there are more of us who's spicing up our resumes than we would like to confess, but we approve of a small amount of spice, but not really hot spices.
Yeah, it's the hot spices I was looking for. I was out for.
Yeah. Well,
very hot ones.
Yeah, I haven't. Of course, that I don't approve to that, but I don't think I've met many like that either. I just hope they get revealed. Of course, I get angry when I hear that people are cheating on tests and taking part of educations because they've been cheating and taking a place for somebody else who hasn't. So of course that's unfair. That's pure cheating. I don't like it. Disqualified.
Yeah, disqualification directly. Yeah. Red card, not even yellow. Red card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You felt finished with the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Then we can move on to the next question. Well, you have probably heard, or you have heard and seen, especially from public figures that use these fancy titles, or that, wants to have that extravagant life, and people who are just using promising words in general, and, they got the flavor, but they do not have the follow-through. Those kind of people. So if we move on to the next question, what are your thoughts on people using fancy titles and promising words at work just to make it look good?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I need to confess something, and that's you presented me as a CEO. Yeah. And I always bounced on that description. I don't see myself as a CEO. And I work within an organization where CEOs are seen as, like you say, that we don't like fancy titles. So actually, since a couple of weeks back, I'm no longer a CEO. I have I do the same job, but we have no CEOs within our organization. I am now called an operational manager. And I don't know, titles are always difficult to talk about, but I always bounce on having a title at all. I rarely understand titles, what they're actually meaning. So I'm not interested in fancy titles. And if people are keen on, and if they're relating to their titles more than what they actually do, I have some issues understanding what they actually think they're doing.
Yeah, I think you painted it perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got me. Am I a liar in my resume, Joseph? Because I approved.
I have not looked at your resume. Have you? I do not think you showed me your resume. Or maybe,
no,
we follow each other on LinkedIn. I don't know.
No, since you introduced me as a CEO, and it was.
You mean that? Well, I did introduce you as a CEO because
I could have stopped you, but I knew this question was coming, so I thought that I'd answer it now.
Oh, you mean like that?
Uh-huh.
Well, I did see it when making research.
Yeah.
So it was I think it was in this website. Yeah, on the website.
Does it still say CEO?
Yes, CEO. Yeah, the Swedish word for it, of course.
Yeah. I understand. So we need to change that.
Yeah.
But it's quite new, so it's no wonder it hasn't been changed yet.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, things do take time. Yeah, I mean, good things do take time, and building new things do take time as well. So yeah, but yeah, then you can change it now.
Yeah.
Then
I changed it on LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's good. You can share a link to your LinkedIn too.
Yeah, when you change your LinkedIn, and I say you need to say I'm happy to say that I have a new job, and people were like, "Oh, so you're no longer a CEO, you're only an operational manager." I needed to clarify. No, it's the same. It doesn't matter. It's the same. No worries. Just didn't want to lie and say I'm still a CEO.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah, nice. Then we can, if you felt finished, nice. Then we can move on to the next question. Well, as we have established, then you have spoken about Misa and Misa Kompetens and so on. If we move on to the next question, then do you have any advice to individuals who wants to start work and is looking for a job?
Do you mean people who are needing of individual support in some way, or do you mean in general?
In general, I mean individuals who wants to really start to work and they really want to get into the labor market and give them the chance to start working. Yeah.
I would say go for easy and comfortable and reachable targets and start working from there. I mean, you probably won't get your dream job the first time, but if you just start somewhere, it's easier to get your next job from that. And it's quite difficult to do a career planning actually, and making sure you follow a path from. But start somewhere and try to take the opportunities as they show up. Don't be afraid to take a step aside and not always struggling getting a promotion. Just try to do something else. Try to develop new skills on your job that you have now. Try to develop new skills in your private life and your social network. Work with relationships and see what contacts you have as well. People hire because of contacts, and employers really want, like I said, people with social skills and people who are loyal to what they're supposed to do.
But some, they do not have any contacts. Maybe they are starting from scratch.
Yeah, but I think that most people have some contacts, and if they don't, you probably should start thinking about what kind of contacts am I ready to try to reach out to. I mean, maybe if you don't have many contacts, it's maybe the solution is not being a member of that big choir or in that soccer team or football team, because you could be without contacts in a big context as well. But start finding someone who could help you with the next contact. Go small, go easy, small targets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, perfect. You felt finished?
Yeah, if you have something to put on your resume, do that and use that. And maybe you need to talk to people. I'm finished. Except the last one.
Perfect. Yeah, I think you painted it perfectly, and the listeners will definitely understand. And that was the very last question of this episode. So thank you for taking your time, Andreas, being on this episode about the labor market of the podcast Society and stuff.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Joseph. It's been nice.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you and discussing about the labor market. Very important topic, definitely. And and we will probably get in touch, or we will get in touch. We are we are on the same board. So take care and have a good one.
Yeah, you too, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, you too.